Hello once again from Fired Up. I'm your host for the show, Bob Irwin, broadcasting from Rigel Studios here in Las Vegas, Nevada. This show is about guns, related politics, and self-defense issues. Fired Up is on our website, firedupwithbobirwin.com, as well as the American Guns and Glory Network, on YouTube separately, and numerous other media. A new show is posted every Thursday at 5 p.m. Pacific Time. Our audio feed is rebroadcast for radio listeners Saturdays at noon. That's on the Nevada Talk Network. You can check out their stations at KELY1230.com for a station in your area all over Nevada, 31 stations. If you have questions or comments, you can send me an email at bob@firedupmail.com. Again, that's bob@firedupmail.com, or leave a message on my office recorder, 702-257-1060. That's 702-257-1060. If you leave contact information, I will respond by email, text, or telephone. There are several hundred defensive uses of firearms every week in the United States, rarely truthfully or fully covered by any mainstream media. We always present some of those for our listeners' education. Most are good shootings. Some are questionable. Sometimes they're actually wrong, but they're all educational for those of you who keep a firearm at home or carry one outside the home for self-defense purposes. Individual incidents are generally adjudicated under local law. So the advice I might give you here would not apply to listeners in different jurisdictions. Stories are often paraphrased by me for clarity, in translation from police jargon, lawyer speak, a lot of that on TV now, or regional accents into more standard American English. The incidents are as reported, except the names of the participants are usually omitted. Okay, this first story comes from KCBD TV 11. A reporter named Caleb Holder reported on June 12, 2020, in Lubbock, Texas. One person was shot after what the victim believed was an attempted break-in Wednesday night in central Lubbock. Now, police were called to the 3200 block of 35th Street around 11 p.m. The resident there is under hospice care and legally blind. This 63-year-old resident said he heard someone trying to kick in his door. He shot through the door, and that shot ultimately injured one person. He's lived in Lubbock his whole life and moved to this particular residence in September of 2019. Last night's invasion wasn't the first time someone had tried to gain entry into his home. He stated, "I've had two so far. One of them happened the second day after I got here. Somebody tried to get in. A couple of days later, someone came in and tried to get in with a key. Then he found someone outside was there, and they said they had the wrong apartment. And then all of a sudden, blam, I said, what the hell? And I ran and grabbed my gun. This is on the recent episode now. I ran and grabbed my gun, and just then, wham, they hit it again. At the door flew open and I started shooting," he said. He told police that if he did not grab his gun, there is no telling what the intruder would have done. He did not see who kicked in his door, but due to his medical disability, he was in fear of his life. When police arrived, the 63-year-old resident told them, "I did the right thing because I know if I hadn't of, they meant business. If you look at the door, they meant business. If I hadn't shot them, I'd be dead." Okay, now Captain Ray Mendoza with the Lubbock Police Department said the castle doctrine allows residents in Texas to defend their property, especially when they are in fear of their lives. In this case, it is very well seems that what was done. Somebody's kicking down your door after 11 o'clock at night. You're home alone. You feel that you need to defend yourself. And as in this case, it seems like it might have been a justified shooting. That's according to this Captain Mendoza. The resident said, "I never thought this would happen to me. Always happens to somebody else. I've never been so scared in my life." His landlord is relocating him to a different unit for his own safety. The Lubbock police released more information Thursday about what happened. The victim fired 2 shots through the door. We'll address that later. The person who tried to get in, a 21-year-old drunk, was actually hit. A person tried to get in who it turns out was with this 21-year-old drunk was shot. According to the report, 2 others were with her and did not realize the 21-year-old woman was at the wrong apartment. When the 2 tried again to get her to leave, the police report says the woman then started to yell that she was being raped. They got her inside a vehicle, and she did not know one of the people who was in the vehicle with her had been shot. Police were called then to the 3500 block of 25th Street after the 21-year-old drunk female walked over there. It's a few blocks away. When the police arrived, they found her with bloodshot eyes, slurred speech, acting hysterical. According to the police report, she was placed under arrest. She then collapsed her body weight, making it difficult for the officer to carry her. After she was placed in the back of the patrol car, she started to kick the window. That's when officers opened the door to the car. She resisted arrest by kicking the officers, trying to restrain her legs. The report said that she was found in a public place while intoxicated to a degree that she placed herself and others in danger and is facing charges of burglary, resisting arrest, and public intoxication. This is a long story. Mendoza said the whole incident is believed to be a case of mistaken apartment, and the victim who was shot was a victim of circumstance. And he said the intent to burglarize the home wasn't there. Mendoza says the investigation is ongoing. Can you imagine? My usual Texas case warnings. Texas allows use of deadly force to recover stolen property and apparently to protect property from burglars, as we have a number of Texas looter cases currently pending in the news. The woman involved here has a built-in insanity defense, obviously, which I perceive from the reports is actually real. The victim here shooting through the door is, of course, a really bad idea. Any bystander hit is certainly likely to cause criminal charges and civil lawsuits. Never do that. Verbal warnings, loud and long, work best. Sometimes warning shots cause an intruder to shoot back, thinking he's being shot at. Now, cases of blind people shooting are actually fairly common. I've had several through my concealed carry firearms classes over the years. A quick story about this. One young lady went in and did the course and went to the local police department to get her permit. The officers there made whispered jokes about her disability. Note here, most blind people have developed great hearing to compensate. My staff had a video of her videotape of her qualification. It even including her doing a tap and rack due to a stovepipe that she had. The sheriff himself, long story, the sheriff himself actually called me to find out what happened. After a few embarrassing phone calls, a very long story omitted here, she was issued her permit. And we've had several blind people in the class since. Blind, of course, comes in a matter of degrees. In this case, the young lady was completely blind, but had vision earlier in life, which disappeared for medical reasons when she was 8 or 9 years old. So she had some conception of sight. Not all of them do. We're going to break here for just a moment for a word from some of our friends and associates. So don't go away. I'll be right back. Freestyle Martial Arts, located at Jones and Russell here in Las Vegas. You can reach them at 702-551-9009. That's 702-551-9009. CCS Gunsmithing. Chris Eifelt, the man who does all the NRA help, he's at 2216 South Rainbow Boulevard near Sahara. He can be reached at 702-365-1732. Once again, 702-365-1732. Jerry Creed, a trust attorney. If you have a firearms trust or need one, this is your guy. You can reach Jerry at 702-806-7777. That is 702-806-7777. CCW Maggie is found all over the internet. You can reach her by phone at 702-375-5900. That's 702-375-5900. All sorts of firearms training, ladies only classes. She is the best of the best. Call CCW Maggie. And we are back. This second story comes from a website called coloradopolitics.com. They report on legal issues affecting generally the state of Colorado and areas right around there. They reported this week a man who killed a homeless intruder in his apartment building is entitled to immunity under the law that allows deadly force in the face of perceived threats. The Colorado Court of Appeals has ruled as of this writing. Colorado's Make My Day Law statute permits occupants of a dwelling to use deadly force against someone who unlawfully enters if they are committing or intend to commit a crime. The resident is immune from civil or criminal liability if he or she reasonably believes that such other person might use any physical force, no matter how slight. That is the wording of the statute. A resident and his girlfriend lived in a multi-unit building in Colorado Springs. In January 2017, the girlfriend noticed that the basement door was open and told the boyfriend that a homeless man may be inside. She thought she saw somebody go in. And there was a light on now in the basement where the male half went down into the basement where he found a sleeping intruder. After the resident nudged him awake, the intruder became belligerent and began throwing objects around the room. The resident told him he would count to 5 and then shoot if the intruder did not leave. The resident followed through on that warning, counted to 5, and then fatally shot the intruder. Prosecutors charged the resident with second-degree murder, but he sought immunity under the Make My Day provision. A district court agreed, but prosecutors appealed, arguing that the basement was not a dwelling covered under the law. We're really getting into the woods of court work here, folks. Judge Deanna Terry, writing for the appellate court, cited a 1982 Colorado Supreme Court decision that deemed a garage to be a dwelling in a burglary case. A dwelling was therefore a building that is used or intended to be used for habitation and does not exempt common areas from that definition. Although the basement was uninhabitable and was accessible to all tenants of the building, it was nonetheless part of the building that was used by the resident for habitation, Terry wrote. The basement was the only place where the sleeping man could adjust, or where the tenant, could adjust the heat and water controls for his apartment. And therefore, it involved uses that were incidental to and part of the habitation uses of the resident. The court explained under the Make My Day rule, defendants had to show that a person made an unlawful entry into a dwelling given the defendant reasonable belief they had committed or were intending to commit a crime. The defendants must also believe that the intruder might use physical force against an occupant of the dwelling. Prosecutors believed there was insufficient evidence that the intruder was about to use force. There's a long sentence there. And that the resident was reasonable in thinking the intruder might committed a crime other than unlawful entry. The El Paso County Trial Court concluded that clearly we have an intimidation that is at this point in time, because the two men were 5 to 6 feet apart in a dark basement. The appeals court affirmed that finding. A detective who interviewed the resident following the incident testified that the resident told him that when he warned the intruder to leave and the intruder became more aggressive, he started to yell and throw things. Judge Deanna Terry wrote, the resident was scared that the intruder was going to charge him. The detective also testified that the resident apparently believed exactly what he said. He felt the resident was telling the truth. Wow. An interesting case involving a reasonable belief that your life is in danger. I always preach, regular listeners know, ad infinitum, I preach that if there is a clear, safe exit from a threat, one should always try to evade an attack. Avoiding possible criminal attack and or years of civil lawsuits is usually a valid idea. The complexity of this case certainly put an explanation point on that fact. Because this is 2 years now, this case, and now it's in the appellate system. That being said, there is no clear requirement to do that under most state laws. Although I advise you to retreat if you can, the law doesn't require it in most places. In most of America, you may stand your ground. With the current attacks on the plain meaning of the United States Constitution by the political left, we are in grave danger of individual never seeing this type of ruling again. This is a long case which will have great effect in the appellate system. We're going to break again for a brief word from some of our associates. Don't go away. Attorney Donald J. Green, a common guest of mine on Fired Up. He can be reached at 702-409-8239. He specializes in gun case litigation. He is your man. Don Green, 702-409-8239. And Battlefield Vegas, my new kind of home for this show. They're on Circus Drive, directly behind the Circus Hotel and Casino. You can find them there with CCW classes and an amazing place for gun rentals, everything you could possibly imagine. Check out, if you're in town as a tourist, check out battlefieldvegas.com. We're really getting to the legal woods today on these cases. This one does the same thing in a totally different direction. This is from WJAC TV6 News, reported on June 11, 2020, a follow-up to a shooting that took place the month prior. The new complaint that was filed states that on May 11th, police were dispatched, lost my place here. Police were dispatched to Oakhurst Homes for a report of a man with a gunshot wound. The woman there told police that the 28-year-old had been harassing her for approximately 18 months. On the morning of the incident, he showed up at her home and broke in by kicking down her door. Now, the woman added that prior to him breaking her home, she had grabbed her registered 9mm pistol and hid it in her waistband. When the woman attempted to call 911, the 28-year-old took her phone and smashed it. He then began stomping on her and punching her in the face. Police add that when he went to close the door to the home so he could assault her without interruption, that a shot was fired. The woman reportedly told police that she only meant to fire a warning shot and didn't realize she had actually hit him. Police say a struggle for the gun then ensued, and the woman managed to remove the magazine from the gun and slide it under her stove. Police added the 28-year-old eventually got control of the gun, struck the woman in the head with it, that he attempted to shoot her with it, but the gun wouldn't fire, no doubt to a magazine safety. The police report he then fled the home with the woman's phone, which was located under a nearby dumpster, but noted that the gun itself has never been found. Police say the woman then went and found her young son, went to a neighbor's residence to get help. When police arrived at the scene, the new complaint adds the officers found the 20-year-old with a gunshot to his neck. Police noted that the woman had multiple wounds on her face and a large amount of blood on her shirt. Both the 28-year-old and the woman were treated for their injuries, and the attacker is now residing in the Cambria County Prison in lieu of $250,000 bail. His formal arraignment on these charges is now scheduled for July 28th. I mentioned that cases never end, and this is a 2-year-old case, and he's yet to actually be arraigned. This is an example of having a firearm but not possessing the skill or the will to use it in self-defense. Some criminals do not run when confronted. Some criminals do run when confronted, some don't. I've observed a few similar cases, and I cannot offer a sound solution. It appears to my untrained eye we have a battered woman who is psychologically under the influence of her tormentor. If 5 experts evaluate her, I expect we would get 5 different opinions. Without professional mental health treatment, she is probably better off without the firearm. It just caused more problems. You know, I can digress here and say, once in a while, there are people who are not mentally stable enough or aware of what their surroundings to possess a firearm. And I know the gun guys will argue with me, but I believe there truly are people who are mentally unstable and shouldn't have guns. And that's my opinion, and I'm sticking with it, and I'll take your flack when you post on my website. I wanted to also take a minute to note the passing of one of my very early mentors, a gentleman named Joseph Totaro. He was publisher of Gun Week newspaper and president of the Second Amendment Foundation. We spoke often back in the day when Gun Week was one of the few publications printing warnings about slowly disappearing firearms right. He is an icon to this industry, and Joseph Totaro will be missed. Look him up on the internet, Joseph Tataro, T-A-R-T-A-R-O. You'll be impressed. You can check out a few dozen of our recent shows at firedupwithboberwin.com. Please patronize our friends and supporters. We'll be back next Thursday on our website, firedupwithboberwin.com, on YouTube at the American Guns and Glory Network, and numerous other websites, television, and radio stations. While watching any media, just click on subscribe and new shows will be sent to your computer or phone automatically. Please forward these broadcasts to your friends. Our logo merchandise, hats, shirts, and books are available at Battlefield Vegas, just behind Circus Circus on the Strip. That is really an amazing place. You've got to go there. It's open now. They're fully open again after the hiatus they had remodeling. Remember, the audio portion is repeated on the Nevada Talk Network all across Nevada on Saturdays at noon. You'll find all their stations at KELY1230.com. I have one more thing I wanted to add. Karl Rove, the brilliant conservative speaker, will be speaking in October at the dinner for the Keystone Corporation in Las Vegas. I will post on my website after this broadcast where to find tickets and how to get there. It's scheduled for October 6th. It will be a jam sellout for all conservatives and advocates of gun rights. I expect to see you there. I will be there. So please look at Keystone Corporation. You'll find it on the web, and check it out. Get a ticket or buy a table and invite your friends. I'll see you there. Thanks for watching Fired Up.